Welcome to Fanning Out, a podcast where we dig into our fandom. I'm Valerie Gritch, an independent fan studies scholar who wants to share our interests and examine why we feel the way we do about them. Basically, why does that thing matter to you and why should it matter to everyone else too? This episode, I'm joined by Melissa. Please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Mel. I make things online and in life. I am a huge horror nerd, and this is what we're going to talk about today.
I'm so excited because I am a chicken shit. So I know like nothing about horror films or horror in
Right.
general because I am terrified of everything. So I'm excited to learn about it through you.
I love doing this. I have found that I am often the introduction to horror for a lot of the important people in my life.
Mhm.
So it's my honor to be that person to like help lead the way into this spooky realm.
Yeah, the spookiness.
Yeah.
So how did you get into horror? How did you become a fan?
Um, I was actually a chicken shit like you, bro.
Mhm.
Like I grew up in the 90s and have very vivid memories of the Scream movies coming out. Well, the first Scream movie in 1996 coming out. And that Halloween, I was terrified. One of my neighbors actually scared the living shit out of me, like on purpose, wearing a ghost face costume. And I ran back to my house, hid under the table, and then another person, one of my sister's friends, was Ghostface, came up to the house and actually took off the mask and let me like see inside to like show me that, it's just me, it's not real. And it really kind of stuck with me and resonated. And then moving forward, like Bride of Chucky came out, and that scared the shit out of me because, dolls everywhere, being a small child with dolls. Um, but I really kind of took back my power when I was like 13. And I decided to watch the Child's Play franchise, the Chucky films, for the first time. I watched the first three. IFC had a marathon of them. So I sat on my couch and ended up screaming at the TV how stupid these people were because it's just a damn doll. And then you cut to years later. I'm 35. I love Chucky. Chucky is that franchise is the reason I love horror. Um, and like I have it tattooed on me. I have horror tattoos. I'm currently wearing my Child's Play Chucky shirt.
Very
I
nice.
had to be dressed for the occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it about Chucky that makes it your favorite?
Um, it's queer as hell, which is really something that not is shown on the surface of it. It doesn't seem like it'd be queer as hell, but it is. Don Mancini, the person that wrote and directed it, and created Chucky, is a queer man. So he has used the franchise to tell some of his own stories. Um, it's also super funny. Um, the franchise as a whole, there's seven movies and three seasons of a TV series of a TV show.
Mhm.
Um, all done by Don Mancini. So it's been the same person doing this franchise for over 40 years. And it's very consistent. A lot of franchises, especially when it gets to the larger number, starting to get to like the double digit uh, sequels, they start really losing the plot and kind of going off the rails. And Chucky, while it goes off the rails, is still very based in the same story. It's been the same tale of Charles Lee Ray putting him putting his soul into the good guy doll and wreaking havoc for 40 years. That's changed. Um, they did try doing a remake, but we don't talk about that.
So what happened with the remake? I know we don't talk about it, but now I'm curious.
So,
Mhm.
So the rights to the first film um was is not owned by Universal. I think it depend it's was a little dicey in the rights.
Uh-huh.
So the movie studio that has the rights tried doing a remake in 2019, um, while we were still in the midst of a Chucky TV series.
Oh
So
no.
they tried like remaking it while the original was still going. And they got Mark Hamill to do the voice of the My Buddy doll. They called it My Buddy instead of Good Guy dolls. And it just was not the best. Aubrey Plaza was in it, and she was Aubrey Plaza and Mark Hamill were literally the only like worthy things about it. Um,
That's wild.
yeah,
That they try,
it's wild.
especially that they put it on at the same time the original franchise was still running. That seems like poor planning on many fronts.
Yes, absolutely.
So you mentioned that you have a tattoo, and you're wearing some merch, but how
Yes.
else do you fan out and embody and represent your fandom?
I go to a lot of conventions. That's how I met you, was
Yeah.
conventions. So I go to a lot of conventions. I cosplay. I've been a cosplayer for over 15 years. Um, I started as a comic book cosplayer and started kind of slowly moving more into the horror genre. So I've done um, cosplayed as Tiffany, who is the bride of Chucky, the love of my life, played by Jennifer Tilly. I love Tiffany. She is a queen. Um,
What do you love
and
about?
then, oh God, she, besides the fact that she is played by Jennifer Tilly, who is probably the reason I am pansexual. I love her so much, and she is just so unapologetically who she is, and that goes into Tiffany's character too.
Hmm.
Tiffany is also a batshit crazy serial killer, married, in a relationship with Charles Lee Ray before he died, and then and put himself into the doll. And she actually, in the movie that she's introduced in, which is Bride of Chucky, which is my one of my on my Letterboxd. It's part of my top four on Letterboxd. Um, she actually um, searches for all of the pieces of the doll because in the end of the third movie, spoilers, Chucky dies and gets the doll goes into this giant industrial fan and pieces go everywhere. So she tracks down all of the pieces in um, a 10-year span. It's supposedly 10 years from when the third one takes place to the fourth one. And she sews him back up, says the voodoo curse, brings him back. Um, and they cause mayhem together. They're like Bonnie and Clyde. And they have a kid at the end of Bride, which brings us into Seed of Chucky, which is Glenda, our non-binary baby, Gigi. Um, Amazing story. They have a gender fluid kid, and it's handled so well in the show. Chucky at one point is questioned about having a non-binary a gender fluid child and is like, well, you're a killer, how are you okay with that? And he's like, I'm not a monster.
Oh, I love that.
And that's pretty much why I love horror so much, is like it's very accepting of everyone, like everyone's on the same keel. But that, like, Chucky the killer doll being like, I have a gender fluid kid, I'm not a monster, I love them. It's just it's so cool, like having that acceptance in such a giant franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's blowing my mind to learn about it and that I didn't know this at all. Like I knew there was a child of some shape and form just from the titles of the stories.
Mhm.
But I'm like, why isn't this? Maybe wouldn't be so scared if if I heard this side of it.
I will say, Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky are two of the funniest of the franchise, with Seed being more comedy than horror. And those two, I definitely would say, are great gateways into the genre. They're spooky, they're scary, they are rated R, so it is gory, but it's not over the top. And there's not a lot of triggering
Mhm.
deaths and kills in it. Because I'm very conscious of the media that I talk about with non-horror fans because there's parts of the genre that I won't even touch. And I know like I've led my friends blind into seeing at least Midsummer, and I did that knowing like their parameters and what they're safe with and what they're okay with. And that's the thing is like horror is a great genre because it talks about these issues head on in very sometimes graphic ways. And it can be very cathartic for people, but it can also be horrifying. I mean, it's horror. It's supposed to be.
I think I get that because I'm a big zombie fan.
Yes.
Even though I like a lot of modern day zombie films I haven't seen, but like especially classic zombie films, I really am interested in. And I know that it has a lot to do with like commentary on like body horror and like worrying about like radiation and like all these like bigger topics that are beyond the grasp of normal conversation, but you're having that conversation through the lens of a zombie story.
Yes. And that's what I love about this genre so much is, I mean, zombie films are great
Mhm.
gateways also because it does have a lot of social commentary in them. I mean, Night of the Living Dead had a lot of um, commentary about race relations
Right.
in the time that it came out. Um, I referenced Midsummer. Midsummer is also my number one on Letterboxd. It is my comfort film. It is just the movie that makes me process my emotions the best when I can't.
Mhm.
And it's something that it's a movie that deals a lot with mental health and grief, and it deals with the aftermath of um, a girl losing her family to murder suicide. Her um, Florence Pugh's character's sister at the beginning is dealing with a lot of mental health struggles, and she's sending a lot of scary messages to her sister. And then we cut and see that she actually carbon monoxide poisoned herself and her parents.
Mhm.
Uh, and the movie deals with Danny's trauma from that and also a really shitty relationship. She is in a relationship at the beginning of the movie with a boyfriend that is basically checked out and does not want to be with her, but stays with her through this. And um, Danny goes through so much throughout this film, and there's a lot of great scenes where she's about to process her emotions, but it cuts extremely fast to another scene. So she's cut off. And then towards the end of the movie, there's this beautiful, beautiful moment where Danny is finally processing and crying and letting everything out. And it's her and the women of this cult commune that she is being love bombed into. Um, and they all cry and heave, and it's just like this emotional scene that every time I cry because I can finally cry with someone when I
Right.
need to. Um,
Like you're a member of them.
yeah, exactly. And then she has this amazing ending where it's a very good for her ending that she just kind of overcomes everything. Yeah, she joins cult in the end. We think she joins cult at the end, but I mean, she's happier. She's processed her emotions. She's smiling at the end. It's that awesome scene where she's in that the headdress and the flower dress, big flower outfit, and she's just crying. Like that, like she's got that smile, like that crazed smile on her face. And it's just like, yes, good for you, girl.
I love that.
Yeah.
'Cause healing isn't perfect. Um, and healing isn't linear and things like that. And so
Yeah.
that's awesome that she's getting some resolution out of the situation she's in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a beautiful film, and it's one of the few horror films that are actually filmed in the daylight.
Mhm.
There's no scene that's really in the dark, so all of the horror is just right there,
Mhm.
which is also just it's a beautiful contrast because a lot of horror is such a dark setting, dark scene. You
Yeah.
can hide a lot of stuff in the dark, but you have to use your imagination because there's no monster. The
Mhm.
monster is the emotions and the trauma. There's no bad guy. It's what you're feeling. So it's just dealing with the darkness, the inner darkness amongst the light, because it takes place in Sweden over midsummer, over like that long stretch, that summer solstice.
Mhm.
So they have just days of sun. They have like only a couple hours of nighttime. So just the fact that it takes place in the day is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, my goodness. I could go on.
That is so fun though, that like again, you get healing and something that you wouldn't expect out of this genre. Because I'm too chicken shit to see that too. But now I feel
Yeah.
like now it's not so scary.
No, I recommend people if I want them to see something, but I know they can't like sit and watch it, commentary channels on like YouTube
Hmm.
are my favorite. I love watching people watch things.
That's so
So
fun.
like, or there's this great um channel called Dead Meat. They do the kill count. So
Uh-huh.
like you can watch the movies through someone else. Like they give you recaps and stuff. And it's all edited for YouTube. So like you're not gonna see anything.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get the jump scares.
I think that's my biggest thing is like when there's jump scares, I don't like being startled very much. Um,
Yeah.
but I was thinking about how we were going to have this conversation and I was like I seem to be okay with like psychological thrillers that like dip into horror, not so much the like classics horror films, which like you brought up Scream earlier, and one of my friends is a diehard Scream fan, and they're like, it's just pure camp. There's nothing scary about it. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm still scared. But
And it's true. I mean, when you're as desensitized as some of us are,
yeah.
we stop seeing the horror in it.
Hmm.
And we see like the comedy and the camp that it's meant to have because horror is just the opposite side of comedy. It's
Yeah.
the opposite side of the same coin. They're basically the same. You can't have one without the other. Um, and it's finding what works for you. And I actually recently found what I cannot do. Like I found my line in the horror stand. So like everyone has their own stuff. Um, but it's definitely there. It's like knowing what to look for without it's knowing what to look for. You
Mhm.
kind of have to go in and try. It's a lot of trial and error with knowing what you like and what you don't like. I don't love body horror at all. I can do some of it. I can't do most of it. Um, that's why I tend to love my slashers
Mhm.
and my psychological horror. I really enjoy watching like exorcism movies are fun to watch because it doesn't scare me as
Mhm.
like a good Jewish girl. I don't know, being possessed and like having to say, oh, the like The Exorcist,
Yeah.
the uh, that one I can't do, but that's because of the makeup. And I think that's what helped a lot too, is I learned how to do special effects makeup. So I started seeing the movies as, oh, how did this person do this?
Right.
How did they make this? Can I recreate this?
And the technical skills that are involved with special effects, horror makeup is so intricate and incredible and baffling. Like, I live in New York where we have the Museum of Moving Image and they have the doll from The Exorcist whose head spins. Um,
Yeah.
and they have other props from other horror films there that they've used. But like even when I would watch The Walking Dead, I would always make sure to watch the after show they had on for a while. Um,
Mhm.
that would show all the like special effects makeup being done and things like that because uh especially these days it's so easy to not do practical effects.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the horror genre for a long, like a good chunk of the mid to late 2000s into like the early 2010s. So I'd say probably from like 2005 to like 2015, the genre kind of got away from the practical effects for a while. If you go and watch some of the films, the digital effects in general just make it funnier.
Hmm.
Like they take it almost takes away from the horror
Hmm.
because you can tell it's CG. You can
Right.
tell a computer made it because it just doesn't seem right. Like it doesn't fake blood, as someone who loves fake blood a lot.
I
They're
love fake blood.
right.
Yeah.
So fake blood is going to like it's got a viscosity to it that you can't replicate with the computer. It's gonna it's gonna like drip differently. You can't do it. So it takes away from the horror, in my personal opinion, in like that 10-year span. But there were a good chunk of directors that actually made a point to not do that. Like Rob Zombie, when he was making the Firefly trilogy, the House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and then Three from Hell came out recently. But he those movies take place in the 70s, and he made sure to use effects that were
Oh,
based
really?
within like that time. He really used that practical effect, and he used his makeup artists really well. The Terrifier franchise, which I if you are not a horror person, please don't. Like, I love the Terrifier films, don't get me wrong. I am a part of the Art to Clown Appreciation Society, but it is not something I recommend lightly to people
Hmm.
just because I almost I couldn't do it for a while. That was my line for like the last 10 years. It didn't I could not look at Art the Clown without being scared up until maybe 3 years ago. And that was when I like met David Howard Thornton at a convention and met him as Art the Clown. Like I had to physically see him in person and
Right.
be like, okay, he's here. He's not gonna kill me. Like to be able to kind of break that illusion a little bit.
Right.
And now I love those films, but those films they use almost all practical effects,
Hmm.
which is so cool. And a lot of indie filmmakers will use mostly practical effects because computer is expensive.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like it's such an interesting genre.
it is. And I think it's also interesting to me that I'm having this conversation with you. And the episode before this one, I was talking about comedy. So I'm thinking what you said, that it's the opposite side of the same coin. Um, that there's so much packed into it. And I think it's really easy for someone like me to write it off at times. Like I know that there's a lot packed into it because I'm a zombie fan. Um, but it's also very easy to be like, no, I'm a chicken shit and just close myself off to it.
It's definitely a genre that's easy to write off, especially if you are not able to bring yourself to try and face your fears, because that is kind of what you're doing is you're facing your fears one movie at a time.
Mm,
You're facing something scary head on, one episode at a time, whether you're watching Tales from the Crypt now that it's finally streaming, or you're watching like Velocipaster and just cracking up hysterically because there's a VFX title card where an explosion should be. Like it's which that one I will always recommend. Please, whatever you do, watch the Velocipaster. It is amazing. It's more comedy than horror. Um, and it's like this little indie team that made it, and that's one that I recommend to every like chicken shit horror fan or person that wants to get into it that might be a chicken shit. Please watch Velocipaster or even Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like the really low budget
yeah,
indie flicks, especially if you're a horror comedy fan, those are
I am a horror comedy
A,
fan.
A plus.
Yeah.
A plus. I like Idle Hands, which was from 2000s with Devin Sawa in it.
Mm,
That one I found watching back when FearNet was a thing on like the I had Comcast. So we had a DVR channel or like one of the on-demand channels. It was called FearNet. And it just had horror movies. And I found Idle Hands, and that is a good horror comedy because Devon Sawa's hand gets possessed by the devil. So it's a lot of like he's doing this crazy hand acting, and it's very physical comedy. It's like
huh.
so good. The camp in it is great. It's very 2000s. Seth Green is in it. It's Eldon Hendrickson who played he was in The Mighty Ducks. He was Fulton Reed in The Mighty Ducks.
Huh.
He's in it. Obviously Devon Sawa, Jessica Alba's in it. And it's just so funny because he's a stoner and he's got a possessed hand. And
That
half the movie, he's just high as shit.
that's amazing.
So oh, I always say find a horror fan to
Yeah.
find you your recommendations because we will know. We will know.
You can guide us safely through the darkness.
Yes. If
Yeah.
you like horror comedy, Velocipaster. If you're a horror musical fan, those exist.
Tell me more about horror musicals.
Oh my goodness, there
You know
is
I love a musical.
I know. So obviously we know the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I could do a whole entire podcast episode on my love of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and how much it means to me and how it got me through everything. But like Rocky Horror musical. There's this great one that came out in the 2000s called Repo the Genetic Opera.
Mhm.
Um, Stacked cast. Paul Sorvino is in it, and he sings, and he has like the most beautiful operatic voice ever. Um, Bill Moseley is in it, who is horror royalty. He was Chop Top Sawyer in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He is also Otis Driftwood in the Firefly trilogy. He gets to sing, which is great. Alexa Pena Vega is in it, or Vega Pena? Is that
I think it's
Alexa Vega is in it? Yeah. Um, she's in it. And this is like post Spy Kids era.
uh-huh.
Um, Paris Hilton is in it,
Of course.
of course. And Anthony Stewart Head is in it. So like Giles,
Yeah.
and Giles gets to sing. Sarah Brightman is in it too,
What
which is
what a cast.
I know. And so it takes place in a dystopian world, where basically the mob runs the country, and um, they there was this big disease, and people needed to have their organs repossessed, or not repossessed. They needed organ transplants. So this company, this guy Roti Largo, and his company GeneCo came in and saved the day, and Roti becomes basically like he rules everything. And then cut 2 years later, Alexa Vega's character, Shiloh, is a teenager, and she's still living in this world, and she kind of gets sucked into it. And without giving too many spoilers, but um, GeneCo starts repossessing organs because people can't pay for the organs that they finance.
Mhm.
So there are these repo men that come and take your organs in the middle of the night.
Oh wow.
She kind of gets wrapped up into this whole thing from one way or another. And it's this great story. It ended in a way that we were supposed to get a sequel. That never happened. It unfortunately bombed at the box office, but has a cult following. It has a shadow cast cult following.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so cool.
I was in a shadow cast for it in college.
That,
Yeah, I was in I was in a Rocky shadow cast and a Repo shadow cast. So I actually got to like learn the movie in and out and got to perform, which was really cool. Um, and then there's another one from the person that made Repo the Genetic Opera, which actually Repo is made by partially made by Darren Lynn Bousman, who is known for the Saw films. He did Saws 3, 4, I think 8. I don't remember. There have been 11 Saw films,
hmm.
but he did like a lot of the really good ones. So there's another one called The Devil's Carnival. And that one, it's a heaven and hell story. And there's two. So it's The Devil's Carnival and The Devil's Carnival 2, Alleluia. That one also has Paul Sorvino in it. He plays God. So not far off from Roti Largo, but he plays God. The creator of Repo and Devil's Carnival plays the devil. Um, Alexa Pena Vega is in it, at least in the first one. Bill Moseley's in it. So a lot of people that were in Repo came back for Devil's Carnival. Um, and it's really fun. They're not as horror, they are more camp
Mhm.
than horror. Repo is, I would argue, more horror than camp, because there are like organ repossession scenes.
Yeah.
But horror musicals are fun. There's also Saw, an unauthorized parody musical.
I remember that being on or off Broadway. Uh,
Off Broadway.
yeah,
We're getting a paranormal activity play. I
yeah,
don't know if it's a musical, but we're getting something paranormal activity related off Broadway. It's going to be like, I think in Boston at the ART.
yeah. I saw that
Doing its off.
was coming. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just finding your little home in the horror house.
I love
And
that.
you can like exist in multiple rooms.
Mhm.
Horror has so many different subgenres, and there's stuff that you can stay away from, but it is like this house because it is such an umbrella category. Um, but yeah, it's always have a horror friend to guide you where you should go. Because if you go in blind, you're just going to get completely turned off to the genre.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair statement.
Absolutely. I did a lot of it blind.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of how I figured out what I liked and what I didn't like
Hmm.
and traumatized myself in certain regards. I mean, watching the first Terrifier movie for the first time, I actually had to pause Netflix because this was in 2016, so this was 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, I remember putting it on because it was part of one of those lists of like Netflix's 10 scariest horror films. And
Hmm.
I am a Barney Stinson girl if I ever was, challenge accepted if I see it. So I like saw those lists and I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm gonna watch all 10 and see where we go. And I remember putting on Terrifier in this very bedroom, in this bed. I was watching it as I was doing my makeup, and there's this one particular kill that is very infamous in one, and it is saw scene where one of the female characters is hung up from her ankles and sawed with the hacksaw down the middle.
Ow.
That was what I said, and I had to pause the movie for about 10 minutes before I finished
Yeah.
because I was not expecting that. And I was not expecting it to be as graphic as it was. Um, so it's definitely one of those things where go like if you go in blind, at least try and see if there are any warnings beforehand, if there are like signs like, oh, top 10 scariest horror movies. Maybe don't do that.
Right.
Not prepared. Um, but yeah, that was one of those, oh, okay, yeah, no moments. I had that recently with It Welcome to Derry, which I don't think I'm gonna continue. But there was a very graphic birthing scene in the first 10 minutes of the series. And body horror, mm-mm, and childbirthing,
Mhm.
mm-mm. I stopped it. I was like, I'm done. I can't. No, thank you. I'm gonna watch True Blood now because at least I know what I can expect.
Yeah, that's fair. So we touched on it a little bit, but what makes it different from your other interests that you have? Like what makes horror your like main thing?
There's something about it, knowing that I'm facing my fears every day. Like it forces me to face my fears a little. And it's as that scared little girl and that like traumatized little girl from like everything I went through in my past,
Mhm.
just it gave me a safe haven. Horror gives like a horror space gives me a weird safe haven. I have my friends, I have my family, I have my family, but there's just something special about knowing that there's a group of people that if you looked at us on the outside, you'd like want to stay away because we're like those scary horror people, but we're literally just teddy bears. Like
Right.
we are the most nondescript people. Like we are the best kind of people. It's like you can't be a punk and be a bad person.
Right.
Like you can't have
Not
it's
compatible.
yeah, it's not compatible. And horror is a very it can be a very political genre, as we kind of talked about with
Mhm.
the zombie subgenre. Um, it's just knowing that there's a lot of like-minded people in the genre, in the space, and that it is a safe space if you're queer, if you're a woman, like no matter who you are, what you believe in, if you're a good person, like no matter what, you belong, which is nice. Especially like having been an ostracized kid. So I really started into the horror genre in my like mid-teens, really got into it in my 20s. And that was my period of my personal growth and kind of starting to be like, okay, this is not going to change unless I also kind of I need my armor if
Mhm.
I'm going to go into this battle or if I'm going to go into life. Um, and horror gave me the tools to process what I needed to process. It gave me the tools to be able to look at a demonic freaking toy and go, nope, you are made of plastic. I could throw you in a fire and you'd just go, wow.
Right.
Like it, it's helped me in so many ways of looking at the big and scary and just going, no, you're not so scary. I've seen scary. You're not scary.
Mhm.
And it's been that comfort for so long. It's just been that little homey like feeling of, yeah, no, you're not scary. This is not scary. This can, yeah. I know. I'm now starting not to make sense, I feel.
No, you make sense. I think it's that armor that you talk about. It's a shield. Um, it's a way of coping.
Yeah.
Um, and we all need our escapes and our ways of coping. Um, I think for me, a lot of the love I have for zombies um is also just like being in a disabled body and like still being functional, but your body is like deteriorating
Yeah.
and
There's
and trying to cope and navigate the world and deal with the horrors of people on top of that.
yes. Yeah, there's something beautiful to be said about being able to see yourself in some in the zombie genre or like even with Frankenstein.
Mhm.
Um, being able to like relate to the monster and knowing you're not a monster and just seeing the way, I don't know, like I don't know, like seeing the beauty in it. They're always seeing beauty in something. There's always something to be said about just having that visibility in a way,
Yeah.
and not like Frankenstein's monster is a monster, but it's not being shown in a way where it's grotesque,
Mhm.
made to like with the Phantom of the Opera and how the Phantom is treated at like a freak show. Horror doesn't necessarily treat you like that. It doesn't show you like that in one way or another, unless it's like for the plot and it's happening. But for the most part, there's always someone or some character that you can see part of yourself in.
Yeah.
Uh, and then just there's something so humanizing about it.
Hmm.
Being able to like, I don't know, the they're just the way that like the Chucky franchise, we have a disabled character in the later half of the series.
Hmm.
Yes, she's played by an able-bodied person because um Nika gets possessed by Chucky and walks, and she is a wheelchair user, but she is not like she is the final girl. She is the main character. She survives throughout the series. She survives for two movies and the three seasons of the TV series,
That's
which ended on a cliffhanger.
awesome.
Um, but she is shown in while she is herself and not possessed by the spirit of a mass murdering doll. Um, Nika is strong and capable, and she protects herself. She tries to protect her niece. She does what she can for her family, and that's I feel like other genres don't necessarily take the love and care that it shows the disabled community.
No, I agree. And I think that's also why I'm so drawn to like apocalyptic stories in general, because
Hmm.
a lot more disability representation in them and
Hmm.
they're treated equally, which is not something we see in real life.
No.
It's like, oh, you're missing a hand, you're missing an arm, you're missing a leg. That's cool. Like, we'll just like modify this weapon so you can continue to like defend yourself and defend your family, and people are going to accept you how you are, and you're still like a contributing member to the group and people value you. And that's really hard to find in other,
Yeah.
let alone real life.
Yeah. I mean, you have Ash Williams from the Evil Dead series who
Yeah,
he has a chainsaw for a hand.
right.
Like, and he's the coolest person ever. He got three movies and I think four seasons of a TV show.
Yeah.
And they're still doing Evil Dead stuff. I think Ash might, I don't know, we're getting more Evil Dead. I don't know if Ash is coming back. Possibly, probably not, because Bruce Campbell and the with his recent cancer diagnosis, but you have Ash Williams, chainsaw wielding Ash Williams, just best final boy.
Yes, absolutely. And just like I remember, I can't remember the character's name, but he was on, I believe, Fear the Walking Dead, and in a wheelchair. And
Yes.
there was one scene where he like pulled a lever and spikes came out of the back of his wheelchair so that zombies couldn't get him. And I was just like, this is so fucking clever. Like, I just love it.
Yeah. There's a great scene, um, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. There's a character that is hard of hearing, and
Mm,
in the dream world, he um he like believe he gets his in the dream world his hearing aids like have some special power to it, and it's really awesome. And like that's another one, like the Nightmare on Elm Street films, they have disabled characters that are not necessarily they're treated like everyone else. They eventually do get killed like everyone else because they are a silly teen and he is a child murderer. But you know, it's very cool
well,
being able to
it's equality in death.
equality in death, exactly. As a former funeral professional, equality in death.
Isn't that what
Everyone
we want?
needs we all want equality. And horror just gives it to us because whether you are disabled or not, the killer's probably still gonna come and get you if you're a shitty teen.
What do you think or why do you think our listeners should get into horror if they aren't already?
Like I said, it's a great genre to face your fears
Mhm.
in whatever regard. There's always something. But it's also just, it's such a technical art form. Um, the artistry that goes into making all of the practical effects that I think that's something that in general we don't talk about enough is the love and support and the amazing talent that the people behind the scenes have. Um, I wanted to be a makeup artist for the longest time. I wanted to be an FX artist. I wanted to make it look like someone was completely eviscerated on my floor and
Mhm.
have it look. And I think if you have a hard time going into it, watching it as for what it is, try and go into it and look at it in the technical aspect because that helps. That kind of makes it not as scary because you know, like, oh yeah, someone had to fill like a condom with fake blood so it could spurt everywhere because they use condoms for blood spurts and blood packs. They're probably just covered in like Caro syrup and food coloring.
Right.
But it's one of those things that, like I said, you can face your fear, but you can face emotions that you need to face. Hereditary is a great film that deals with generational trauma and grief. And there's just, if there are things that you are dealing with emotionally and mentally, there is probably something out there that will help you through it in the genre. And I think that's really important. It's being able to see what you are feeling and feel what you are feeling, like feel it with it. Just like in Midsummer. Cry along with the film. Cry with the other Hargo women and just get it out and feel
Yeah.
it. And don't be afraid to feel it.
I think that's a big thing too, is the fear of confronting your own emotions. And not just like the fear of, oh, I'm afraid of clowns or I'm afraid of this thing or whatever, but just like knowing you have to then sit with the uncomfortable feelings.
Absolutely. That's the scarier thing is sitting with those feelings.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a great way of putting it because you are going to be affected by it. All good media should affect you
Yeah.
in some way, positive or negative. Um, Hopefully positive, but positive or negative, all good media should give you something. And I think the horror genre can do a lot for people. If you need a laugh, go watch Velocipastor, as I keep saying. I'm gonna like hashtag not sponsored. I feel like I have to say that. But I just genuinely like as a film lover, I love that this genre can be different things. It can be funny and campy. It can be a musical. It can be really serious. It can be absolutely outlandish and ridiculous. Like it is a genre that can do and be anything
Mhm.
and do and be anything for anyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about horror before we close?
Never write it. The Oscars and the Academy and the they tend to write it off, but you are going to see some of the greatest performances that some of your favorite actors can give. I mean, they're all extremely talented anyway, clearly, but like Toni Collette should have gotten an Oscar nomination at least for Hereditary. Um, Florence Pugh became one of my favorite actresses because of Midsummer. Um, I think the Chucky franchise is a gateway into getting into it, especially any of like the 80s films, any of the films that came out in the 80s. So your Nightmare on Elm Street, your Friday the 13th, Leprechaun. If you want horror comedy, Leprechaun. Leprechaun goes to space at one point.
Oh gosh.
Oh yes. If you know a franchise has gone off the rails if they go to space.
Oh yeah.
And they go to space. And it's great. So just don't write it off. Find find a way to get into it because it is such a fun genre. And there are great intro like kid films that are technically like spooky adjacent. So like the Casper
Right.
movies, like the Your Nightmare Before Christmas is, any of like the Tim Burton stuff. Um, that's how I got my niece. I'm like slowly trying to get my niece at least desensitized
Hmm.
because she is gonna see my niece is gonna be 9 and she sees a lot of my stuff around. And I knew that going in when she was born that, oh crap, I like horror and I'm gonna probably traumatize her at some point. So let's try to stop this head on. One of her favorite films is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hmm.
She asks to watch Jack all the time. She hangs out with my Jack Skellington Halloween decorations. Um, so I think finding the way into the genre and making it less scary, just making it more accessible is a way to do it.
I
And
love,
talk to your kids about horror too. It's
yes.
not as scary.
We don't need generations of chicken shits.
No, we don't need generations of chicken shits. We need we need we need the little ones. It's so fun going to horror conventions and seeing the parents with their kids all dressed up and like little kids dressed up as like Pennywise. I love going to see little kids meeting David Howard Thornton, especially when he's dressed as Art the Clown, because he is so adorable with kids.
Uh,
It's so fun. Like if you see Dave, best way to not be afraid of Art the Clown is watch him when he's in costume at conventions, interacting with fans and with kids. Like watch those TikToks that like Galaxy Con and everyone posts because that will not make him as scary as he is. And it's just finding ways to make it not scary for yourself.
yeah, that makes sense. I like it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being with me for this hour. I hope you had
Thank you for
fun.
having me.
Yes. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.